What's up guys, Amanda here, and we are about to get into a review of Red Sparrow, which I've just got back from. So we're just kind of start with like a loose, kind of just like description, initial thoughts of it, so that if you guys don't want spoilers, you don't have to deal with that. And then like at one point I'll let you know when. We'll kind of discuss some more of the specifics, I suppose. But just to kind of go into it, Red Sparrow, obviously it is a new spy movie. I guess I'd call it a spy thriller. It's based off of a novel by the same name, starring Jennifer Lawrence. I'm personally a Jennifer Lawrence fan. I know some people can't stand her. I think the only thing I really wasn't huge on, I personally did not enjoy Mother. I'm just putting that out there. But for the most part, I really enjoy Jennifer Lawrence's performance. I think I kind of prefer her like Silver Linings Playbook style acting, but this was a great performance. Just to kind of get into it, it kind of starts off with her as a ballerina. She has an accident that leaves her unable to continue dancing. Her uncle, who is a high-ranking officer for the Russian government, basically creates a scenario where she's kind of forced to work for him, and it just kind of like falls apart from there. Before we get into anything like impressions and thoughts, I just want to let you know that there is a lot of sex, a lot of sexual violence in this movie. Very, very specifically, the spy training really turns more into how to seduce people, arts of seduction, and giving people what they want. Specifically, I've only, like in the movie, you really only see women put in positions where they have to give men what they want, but it's more for like a control aspect. I know there's a lot of controversy around that. Some people, you know, going right for the obvious, like just that this is just kind of like a systematic thing where women are trained to just give men what they want, even if it's to get something out of them. So there's a lot of controversy around that, a lot of controversy around the amount of nudity that's in it. Just the fact that the whole movie seems to be dedicated to getting Jennifer Lawrence naked a lot. But I will say that it like some of it is, in my opinion, there was like a little bit too much of it, but that's just me personally. I usually don't feel that a lot of those like sex scenes in general, they don't usually add to a movie. Every once in a while, there'll be a scene where I'm like, yeah, that totally makes sense for it to be there. Totally adds to the story. And this one, sometimes there'd just be things that would be happening, and I'd be like, I don't know how this is really pushing the story along. That's just my personal opinion. Overall, my kind of like initial thoughts on it were that it was kind of like convoluted. As you're going through it, some scenes don't necessarily make sense. Some of it seems to drag on. And the movie is 2.5 hours long, which is a little bit on the extended side. Like Annihilation was only 2 hours long, and I feel like it really packed in a lot of themes. And it really just kind of left me thinking afterwards, whereas this was like 2.5 hours. Some of it seemed unnecessary, but it really comes together in the ending. That's what I will say. Once it gets down to the ending, I was like, oh, okay, this is awesome now. Like where you think it's going, it doesn't end up going there. And maybe some people do kind of figure out where it's going, but if you're just kind of like following the story as they're giving it to you, it hits this point where you're like, whoa, that is so much better than where I thought it was going. So that was nice. So like it comes together nicely in the end. On top of just like the over-the-top sex and sexual violence itself, there's a lot of actual violence, and it's not just like punching and gunfights. It's like some pretty brutal torture scenes, and then like you kind of see the aftermath of some torture scenes. So if that kind of stuff isn't for you, I would avoid it. This is one of those 18A ratings that has really earned its rating, and I should have realized how bad it was going to be, because things in Canada never get like the R or 18A rating. It's very, very rare. So like in the States, Deadpool was rated R. In Canada, it was 14A. So the fact that this got like the 18A rating should have let me know that it was going to be pretty intense from all standards, because I didn't really look into it. I kind of briefly looked it up, saw that it was kind of like a spy espionage style thriller, and went to see it. I actually didn't even know to expect that Jennifer Lawrence's character was going to be Russian. Does anybody else find it really weird to hear people that you know are American or like North American or even like English speaking with Russian accents? Is that just me? I'm using this light again. I don't know how I feel about it yet. Is that just me? Am I the only one who finds that unusual? Because I find it kind of unusual. So that was kind of a distraction, like Jennifer Lawrence speaking with a Russian accent was a little bit unusual to me, kind of like when Forrest Whitaker was speaking with the African Wakandan accent in Black Panther. It's just like, I know you don't sound like that. But otherwise, it was an interesting movie. I'm still not entirely sure It definitely could have been better. I'll say that right off the bat. The movie itself could have been better. The flow of the story could have been handled significantly better. I feel like the intro and kind of like how it builds into the story is a little kind of maybe just stretched out a little bit too long. I don't think they needed quite as much of it for what they did. And I think that sometimes it just jumped around a little bit too much. Like it didn't stay with certain characters in a good flow when it jumped back to something else, because it's kind of going back and forth between like what she's doing, what the Russians are doing, and what like the Americans are doing, but not in a way that, like, obviously a lot of movies juggle themes and juggle different storylines like that, but this one, it was very jarring. Like scenes would just cut really quickly, and it's kind of like almost like a YouTube video. Like obviously you do a lot of quick cuts in YouTube videos because you just stop one thing, move to the next, because you're not trying to fill in things with cinematics. It almost seemed like they were trying to like cut things down so that they could shave off very minimal amounts of time for the movie. That's probably not why. It was probably just trying to keep the thriller pace going. But overall, I feel like some of the parts went really fast and some of them kind of dragged out a little bit. So those are my opinions. It was a little bit weird, but like I said, once it comes together, that's where it really, like by the end, I was like, okay, I like the ending. That kind of redeems it a little bit. Because sometimes you'll have a really great movie and then the ending sucks and it ruins it. This was kind of the opposite. It was kind of an average middle road movie, even like subpar movie, and then it ends. And I was like, oh, that's a great ending. That kind of redeems it a little bit. For the most part, it's getting like 60% average reviews. That's probably where I'd put it, at like a 60 or 65. If you're like into espionage type thrillers, I would give it a go if you don't really have anything else to do with your time. If you're really not into those types of movies, and you're not a Jennifer Lawrence fan, I would probably avoid it. This is heavily driven by Jennifer Lawrence. There are very few moments where she's not on screen, so if you're not a fan of her, I would avoid it. Now, for those of you who don't really care about like the non-spoiler aspects of it, we're gonna get into some more details here. Just kind of like this is kind of what I would describe the movie to be, and it's just with this one scene from The Office.
And he revealed himself to be a double agent, at which point Dwight felt comfortable revealing that he also was a double agent, and then Michael announced to everybody that, get this, he was a double agent.
So yeah, like a lot of the movies just got this like, oh, I'm a double agent, but I'm actually a triple agent, but maybe I'm a quadruple agent, because that's kind of what happens. You'll have moments where I honestly, pretty much through the entire thing, I was like, okay, yeah, once she says that she's down to work with the Americans, I'm like, yeah, she's probably going to stick to working with the Americans. Like, the Russians have destroyed her in so many different ways. Her life's been sabotaged in Russia. She's just trying to do the best for her mom, and America can offer that in a way that the Russians can't. The Russians are offering her things in a way that implies ownership, while like the United States is like, you give us something and we'll help you out. Like, it's cool. So I kind of get that aspect of it a little bit more. So like once I felt like she was more dedicated to the Americans than she was to the Russians. So even though there was this jumping back and forth, I kind of established that she was probably, with the Americans. Even with the whole scene and the torture scene with Nash, I was like, yeah, I think she's like cutting skin off of his leg right now, but I think she's still with the Americans. It's just a show, and it was just a show. So that was kind of interesting to see there. I think that some of it kind of like, they kind of glazed over things. Then the actual like the Sparrow training itself, as one of the bigger complaints, is that it didn't really seem like espionage and spy training. It literally seemed like seduction and giving yourself to people's sexual needs training. As if being able to hang out with somebody for one night and getting them to have sex with you would make them give up their biggest secrets. Like, yeah, you're gonna find some kind of schmuck out there that'll tell you anything you want to know just because you open your legs and like blow their mind or something, or give them what they want in that area. But these, like, the most of the people that they're going after are like highly trained agents who know who they are. And I think that was another issue, is that how quick the Americans, well, especially Nash, was to just be like okay with her. I don't know. There's just a lot of weird stuff like that. Like I said, it comes together in the end and in a really nice way, but it was like the story itself seemed kind of convoluted. Again, it's based off a book that I haven't read, maybe the book's better. Maybe the book kind of explains things a little bit differently and a little bit, you know, in a more sensical way. I know a lot of people are saying that the role kind of reflects some stuff of Jennifer Lawrence's actual life. There's like the whole idea that like your body doesn't belong to you anymore, it belongs to the state. And it's just kind of the idea of like the whole thing she was going through with like when her nudes leaked, it was like, once you're a celebrity, you're not yourself, you're a public figure, you belong to the public. And everybody was like, oh, she's an actress, she's asking for it, she's asking for the harassment, she's asking for the paparazzi, and her basically maintaining, you know, just because I'm a public figure and I put myself out there and you see me as a celebrity doesn't mean that gives you free access to my body. So it's kind of interesting how that paralleled. I was kind of reading an article a little bit about that, and it was interesting. Obviously, I'm not going to compare what Jennifer Lawrence went through with a nude leak to what, if you've seen the movie, you'll understand. I'm not going to compare it to some Russian Sparrow training where people are literally just kind of like forced to have sex with people to get information out of them. Would never. But yeah, it was interesting. It was very, very graphic. I don't know if it's supposed to just really give a representation of what that program is, or what like the Russians are capable of. I don't know if it was supposed to kind of double as some like, you know, see, the Russians are really terrible people, you know? Be happy that you live in North America. I'm sure that's not it, but like, you know, maybe you get those vibes a little bit. I do think that it really portrayed how like intelligent she was supposed to be as a person, and how she didn't necessarily need to use her body to get information. She was just very good at telling people what they wanted to hear, making sure that she was, you know, reacting to situations in the appropriate way. I thought that was really where she shined. I don't think she really ever had to use her body to get anything necessarily, and any time where it seemed like she was going to, she ended up going a different route, which I thought was interesting. It was basically kind of like standing in the face of what she was taught that she was supposed to do. And I think that's pretty much like those are my main thoughts. I'm sure this is going to be something where I go to sleep and actually process the information that I just saw, and I'll probably have more thoughts on it. But yeah, overall, I probably give it like, you know, a 6 to a 6.5 out of 10. I think that Jennifer Lawrence did a really good performance. I just think that there were some things that really held the movie down, and a lot of it was just basic movie components, like just like the flow of the film, the direction of the story. But it gets some points back because I really like how it ended. I was a big fan of the ending. I really enjoyed it. So if you guys have seen it, let me know what you think down below. If you haven't had a chance to see it yet and you end up going, let me know your thoughts. If you want to continue this discussion, feel free to drop down to the section there down below, and we can continue kind of talking about details that maybe I forgot. So feel free to point them out. Let me know what your opinions are. Do you think this is kind of like a sexploitation film, like a lot of news outlets are saying? Yeah, I think it's just it went all out. It went all out. It was very real. I think it was and maybe too real for some people, because I know stuff like this happens, and I know extreme violence happens. So maybe for some people, it's just gonna end up being a little bit too real, and maybe for others, it's like right up their alley. So let me know what you guys think. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and we'll catch you all later.
It wasn't me. I'm not going down for this!
Yeah, I want to go home.
Get the keys out of my purse, start the car.